Hello and welcome to Budget with Business Standard. I am Ruchika Chitravanshi. In today's episode of Budget with Business Standard, we are talking about politics of budget and more. Like every day that we have been bringing this show for the past few days, we will bring you up to speed with all that is happening in the run up to the budget. But first, let me introduce you to my colleagues, Mr. A.K. Bhattacharya, our editorial director, author, but most importantly, a journalist. And then we have our political editor, Mr. Archis Mohan. So here we go. AKB, today we have seen President Murmu's address in the parliament, and she has sort of set the stage for what's to come in the budget, it seems. And she has said the big headline that's coming out is that historic steps will be taken in this budget. To what extent do you think she is correct, and is this budget going to see historic steps? And of course, you can talk
Well,
about
I dare not say that she is not going to say something that will not happen. So one has to expect that the budget will take some historic steps. But what those historic steps would be, frankly speaking, is difficult for me to speculate on. But what I can say is that traditionally, historic step would mean maybe major tariff reforms. The fact of the matter is, for the last 35 years or so, tariffs have moved in a certain direction, whether it is tariffs or whether it is tax rates. Now, direct and indirect tax rates have moved in a certain direction, but import tariffs had moved in a certain direction, and then again they began moving up. Now, what she meant by historic steps, we still don't know. But what I can pick up from her elaboration of what she meant by historic steps is involvement of states in making foreign investment and domestic investment little more easier. So probably you will see some announcements in the budget wherein there are there's a greater evidence of policies that encourage, in her words, competitive, cooperative federalism. So maybe we can see that happen.
I can get Archis at this point. Archis, the president has talked about almost all issues in her speech. She's talked about Northeast, she's talked about NEET, Kashmir, Viksit Bharat, India being Vishwa Bandhu. Now, this budget, and we've talked about in our previous show briefly, but it will be good to get your perspective on this as to what are some of the political compulsions that the government will face in this budget.
If you look at the last 10 years of the BJP government, even with the single party majority, they've always been receptive to the message from elections, whether Lok Sabha elections or state assembly elections. It's always been a renewal of their legitimacy. So in 2015, they suffered the first two reverses in Delhi and Bihar. And we saw them jettisoning their land reforms agenda, embracing Garib Kalyan, welfare of the poor. Then you move on. In the run up to the 2017 UP elections, some of the welfare schemes such as Ujjwala Yojana were launched. Uh, you would Yes, you would see after they lost Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan in 2018 December, the 2019 interim budget announced PM Kisan Nidhi. Similarly, the farm laws were withdrawn 6 months or a few months before the UP Assembly election in 2022. So beyond the coalition compulsions, the BJP, even as a single party majority, has listened to the electorate and responded. And the review meetings have been going on, the BJP's internal review meetings. Some of the feedback has come out in the public domain, some hasn't. And there's this perspective of at least three crucial states, if not four, going for assembly polls by October or November. So some of those lessons that they've learned in the Lok Sabha elections and some of the lessons for the forthcoming assembly elections, I think the budget will reflect that.
So Archis is saying, AKB, that government is listening to the electorate. So will this play in some way in some sort of economic populism in this budget, do you think?
Well, I would not say economic populism in the traditional sense, but certainly addressing the concerns of the sectors that did not stand by the ruling party.
Yes.
in a sense that even if you look at the president's speech today, you will see that she's focusing a lot on the farm economy, the rural economy. And she's talking about the farmer producers organization. Short of saying that there will be any farm sector, those laws will be brought back or not, she's saying that we will go out of our way to make sure that the farmers and the rural economy get a kind of a lift. So I think they will, as Archis rightly pointed out, they will listen to the voters' verdict, and the budget will reflect that. Uh, Going beyond just that, listening to the voters, I would say that the finance minister will also try to play by the rule book. And when I say the rule book, that she will not try to do something by which her own reputation as a finance minister gets sullied, sorts. She has been seen to be, as a finance minister, who is fiscally prudent. She has been seen to be a finance minister who has been very, very transparent, and she has also promised some sort of tariff reform, a calibrated tariff reform going forward.
In fact, sir, in the interim budget also of this government versus the 2019, she really stuck to the rule book as to what the interim budget did. It was clearly a
Absolutely.
vote on account. But Archas, you also talked about agriculture laws, and there is a whole big reform agenda that this government has had. Of course, land reforms and agri reforms are contentious issues anyway. But how do you think, in the current coalition government that we have, the reform agenda, the kind of push that it could get or not get?
Okay, so the BJP right now has two crucial allies, one in Bihar, which is Janata Dal United, and one in Andhra Pradesh, which is Telugu Desam Party. A BJP JDU government has been in Bihar, was in Bihar from 2005 to 2013. The finance minister of that coalition government was a BJP MLA, Mr. Sushil Modi. Similarly, the TDP has been in alliance with the BJP in 98 to 2004, and also during the first term of the Modi government, at least till 2018, when Chandrababu Naidu exited on the issue of special category for status for Andhra Pradesh. And I haven't seen I don't remember any disagreements on key economic reforms between the JDU and the BJP, or the TDP and the BJP. I see the opposition would probably come from within the Sangh Parivar more than on economic reforms, more than from TDP and JDU. The opposition from TDP and JDU could come on, some of the social policies, uniform civil code, or some of their other agenda. Uh, but on economic reforms, what the Sangh Parivar affiliates have to say, and we need to remember how the Sangh Parivar affiliates opposed some of the reforms during the Vajpayee government. There were famous pictures of Sangh Parivar's Dattupan Thingri and Gurudas Das Gupta of the CPI protesting together, hand in hand, at Jantar Mantar against, for example, disinvestment. So BJP will need to be more receptive towards what the affiliates say rather than what JDU and TDP have to say.
All right. All right. AKB, what do you think? I mean, how has the government even performed on its reform agenda in the last 10 years?
If you look at the last 10 years, you refer to 10 years, the BJP government's track record, even when they were a single majority government party, what are the key reforms they undertook? They undertook the GST, they introduced GST, which was a very bold, ambitious reform, even though people still argue that they are flawed reforms and they need to be corrected soon enough, which will be corrected, I'm sure. Then there was the real estate sector reform. You brought in a regulator. Then there was the insolvency resolution law. That was a major reform. It has borne fruit. Then there was also monetary policy committee, inflation targeting regime. Now, apart from these four major reforms, I don't see too many reform ideas being mooted by this government. There were attempts on land reforms, there were attempts at labor reforms, there were attempts at farm sector reforms, But all these reforms, as Archie's also pointed out, they met with political resistance and they were rolled back, except labor reforms. Now, labor reforms, we are still waiting to see what the government does now. So, given this, and on disinvestment, I mean, the government's only flag on privatization is Air India. Compared to the Vajpayee government, there are about almost a dozen privatizations. So I don't think that this government will go all out and make it a historic budget by announcing major reforms in a classical sense. The reforms would be seen in terms of how well they involve the states. Reforms will be seen how well they make the tax structure a little more friendly. Reforms will be seen how well they can implement the welfare schemes with fewer revenue losses or leakages. So I think you will see reforms in those areas, but not in a traditional sense of privatization in a big way, or tax cuts in a big way. So it's a government that believes in welfareism to a great deal, and if you look at the president's speech also, which is a clear indication that it will focus on welfareism once again.
How will that affect our whole fiscal consolidation plan? And that brings me to the column that you've written this week, yesterday, on how the government could push the goalposts by a year.
Well, this year has been a lucky year for the government. This year, you have an additional kind of a bonanza from the Reserve Bank of India, and the additional money is as large as almost 0.37% of GDP. Now, this will not necessarily be there for next year. So, this year is a golden opportunity for the finance minister to make it a truly historic budget by saying that instead of 5.1%, I want to go down to maybe at 4.8 or 4.9, and say that I am going to reach my target, which I had set in 2025-26 at 4.5%, 2 years ahead. Now, that to my mind will be truly a historic budget, and the markets will actually celebrate. Now, whether the finance minister takes that plunge, time will tell. We will see in the next 3 weeks.
We have state assembly elections coming up, Archis, and you also referred to it in your earlier answer. And AKB has put another goalpost for Nirmala Sitharaman to bring fiscal deficit down to 4.5, or at least lower than 5.1% this year. Now, in all of this, how do you think the whole, the special package demand from Bihar, Andhra Pradesh that the government is facing, again, I come to the coalition pressures. How will it play out when it has to balance both these things?
I think the pressures, in this sense, the coalition pressure is so much more. The renewal of the pressure of renewing your legitimacy is greater than probably what it was in 2014 to 2019 or 2019 to 2024. And that is where the results of the Lok Sabha elections, particularly in the poll bound states in Jharkhand, Haryana, Maharashtra, are more important. Uh, the BJP lost significant ground both in Haryana, where the Congress and Aam Aadmi Party, if you look at their vote share, is greater than the BJP's by a percentage point, and they won. Congress won 5 of the 9 seats that is contested. BJP won 5, and the margins in at least 4 seats are quite thin for both. And according to a think tank's data, CSDS, a Delhi-based think tank, their post-poll data suggests that more farmers voted against the BJP versus people who are non-farmers. More people who are non-farmers voted for the BJP. Similarly, in Maharashtra, uh, the BJP and its alliance couldn't barely touching a bit over a dozen seats. So they'll need to respond to that reality, reach out to the farming communities, and you would see even among women, for example. Why I'm talking about farmers, women, because these are the 4 pillars of New India, as Prime Minister Narendra Modi describes them, and which the President in her speech today said. So women in UP, for example, more women, surprisingly, voted for the India bloc than for the BJP. And if you look at the trend of the last couple of years, uh, when did the Modi key guarantee come about? That's when the BJP lost the Karnataka Assembly elections on Congress's guarantees.
That's a very interesting point that you've made about farmer, non-farmer, the swing vote. One of the things, AKB, that and Archis also and I and so many other reporters, when we went out for election reporting, one of the big issues that came out was the jobs issue. And you've said that they are listening to the electorate. Now, in this budget, while of course we understand that budget directly can't, provide jobs, but it can certainly take measures on jobs front, and maybe both of you can share. What do you think the budget can do?
What has happened after 4th June in some of the BJP governed states? The states have said that all the vacancies will be fulfilled, or as much as possible will be filled soonest. Rajasthan has said that. Uttar Pradesh is trying for that. There are efforts to ensure that paper leak, the instances of paper leak are reduced. Some sort of investigation machinery, etc., is being set up. Uh, for example, some of the affiliates of the RSS have said, please fill 20 lakh vacancies, 2 million vacancies in the central government jobs. The Congress figure for that is 3 million vacancies. Uh, so, whether in the budget or outside of this budget, but very soon, either through the state governments that the BJP runs, and as for the central government jobs, for example, railways or other big central government departments, some movement will need to be there, because as you rightly said, in the elections, issues of livelihood and government jobs was a prominent factor.
AKB?
Yeah, in brief, what I would say is the jobs issue is a big issue, and I think the budget will have to address that issue. There's a long-term solution, there's a short-term solution. The short-term solution is what Archis is talking about, that you have got a lot of vacancies in the government sector. Railways is a huge outfit which has got a lot of vacancies. The government itself, there are talks about 20 lakh vacancies in the government, so fill them, announce that. Now there will be a cost to it, but the long-term challenge for jobs is what our paper Business Standard has reported today. One of the India's largest companies, L&T, is talking about not getting 20,000 people, engineers, or 20,000 workers because they are not trained. So therefore, the long-term solution to the job is to create those skilling facilities by which you can make people qualified and skilled enough to go for private sector jobs, which is where the private sector is saying that I want to hire. So I think both a long term and a short term solution should be the order of the day.
Absolutely. So that's all we have for you today. Sitaraman has Miss Nirmala Sitaraman has a big challenge in front of her to take view of the economy both in the short term and the long run. Long run, as AKB pointed out, she can and she has the resources to advance the goalpost by a year for fiscal consolidation. And at the same time, as both Archis and AKB have pointed out, there are so many economic challenges, welfare schemes, jobs that the government needs to spend on, and only the budget will tell how the FM will tread this tightrope. Thank you so much for watching.